This morning of Andre Matthews arriving here in Harris County under police escort after being transferred from Baytown. It was something we were waiting for all morning long. And according to court records, Matthews is formally charged with murder in the death of 16-year-old Andrew Meismer. Now, inside the courtroom, prosecutors allege the stabbing happened during a fight inside Sterling High School, saying the argument started over a $21 vape pen.
To your left, Counselor. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Yes, Judge. No, Judge.
Good morning, Mr. Matthews. You are charged with murder, which is a first-degree felony, punishable from 5 years in prison up to 99 years or life, and a fine not to exceed $10,000. The state's going to read what's called probable cause. It's just a thumbnail sketch of what they think they can prove if your case goes to trial. Under our Constitution, you're presumed to be innocent, and you have the right to remain silent, and then we'll talk afterwards about the purposes of today and what the next couple months will look like. All right? Do you understand everything I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful.
Yes, Judge. Defendant Andre Matthews, cause number 1945034. In this case, Judge, also respond to a stabbing at Ross Sterling High School at approximately 11:15 a.m. The complainant in this case, a juvenile, later died of his injuries at approximately 11:53. Teacher of the classroom, witness Davis, spoke to officers that he allowed the complainant to use the restroom. Minutes later, this defendant asked to use the restroom as well. Shortly thereafter, witness Davis stated he heard cries for help and observed this defendant holding the complainant in a chokehold with the defendant's arm around his neck. Witness Davis attempted to remove the arm from the neck of the complainant, but this defendant would not remove his arm. He observed blood coming from his neck and the complainant's body, able to get the defendant off the complainant. Officers began to review surveillance video from the school campus. Videos show that at 10:30 a.m., defendant and complainant were walking together entering a classroom. This video shows that both the complainant and the defendant are roughly the same size and are cordial with each other at around 10:30 a.m. Soon after, both defendant and complainant enter the same empty lab classroom. A female student is seen entering that classroom as well. Minutes later, the female runs from the classroom and calls for help. The student in this video is a juvenile with initials MR. Witness Davis, the teacher, is seen running to that classroom, kind of corresponding to what he said when he saw the fighting at 11:15. Officers met with this witness, MR, and her parents. MR but knows both parties, this defendant and the complainant, by name and sight. She stated that she overheard this defendant and the complainant discussing a vape THC pen, that the defendant had lost his pen and was blaming the complainant for taking it. She continued that she heard the defendant then strike the complainant, looked up and saw the two fighting each other. The defendant was choking the complainant and there was a lot of blood coming from the complainant's neck again. MR was then shown a photo of this defendant and identified this defendant as Andre Matthews, the same person that she observed fighting with the complainant. Judge, this defendant is currently 18 years old and is not a juvenile. He was arrested at the school. He was brought down to Baytown City Jail. At that point, officers began to Mirandize this defendant and read his legal warnings. This defendant said that he would not talk until he got a chance to speak to his adult sister. So at about 5:15 p.m., the defendant spoke with his sister, Kia Matthews. Officers then re-Mirandized this defendant, and he agreed to waive and speak to the officers at this point. Defendant stated that he was friends with the complainant, that when the complainant left the classroom that teacher Davis spoke about, that he followed with the intent of confronting this complainant about his missing THC vape pen, that the complainant owed him about $23 for this missing pen. 21, I apologize. And that his pen was missing, and he believed the complainant had stolen it. Defendant followed the complainant to the bathroom, searched his pockets, did not find the pen, but instead found a pair of scissors on the complainant's person. He took the scissors and put them in his own waistband. Then both parties walked back to the classroom, where this defendant confronted the complainant again. They walked to the empty classroom that we mentioned that we see them going into on video. Once again, he confronted the deceased about the vape pen and tried to search his pockets again. The deceased pushed the defendant back, and the complainant and the defendant began fighting. The defendant told officers that the complainant struck the defendant in the head twice with a closed fist while the defendant was crouched down. Defendant stated that the complainant was taller and bigger, which the video kind of does not show that same kind of description, and that he did not want to get beat up. He said he retrieved the scissors from his waistband, swung at the complainant with them, and stabbed the complainant what he believed to be in the eye. Then, as he puts him in a chokehold, officer or witness teacher comes in as well, Teacher Davis, and that he continues to hold him in that chokehold, gets him on the ground, and tells officers he then stomped on his head. He's then dragged from the classroom. This complainant, complainant AM, the juvenile initials, was found deceased, was ultimately ruled by a puncture wound to his neck, consistent with the scissors that were swung by this defendant. Scissors, judge, as well, are a deadly weapon that were used as a deadly weapon in this case.
All right. Do you wish to hear?
On probable
Oh,
cause.
I find probable cause.
Yes, Judge.
So now we're gonna talk about the bond. So as you know, there's been a new constitutional amendment, and so this case is a first of its kind to deal with the procedures involved with that. So for now, I'm gonna set a bond. Would you like to be heard on that?
Yes, Your Honor. My client is an 18-year-old. He's a senior in high school at Sterling High School. He has no criminal history whatsoever. With no criminal history and no troubles arising out of this, and he had his guardian is his 18-year-old sister that he did request to speak to prior to waiving Miranda and cooperating with police in giving his statement. We would request a $500,000 bond, Judge.
All right.
Judge, the state would request a very, very, very high bond in this case. We'll defer the court to what that number actually is, and at this time, the state does intend to move under 11D at an appropriate time.
All right. So, but we're going to set your case for an 11D hearing on January, around January 6th or 7th. Right now, I'm setting your bond at $3 million. We'll go over any bond conditions at a later time. But I do find probable cause. Your bond is set at $3 million, and we will see you next year for the 11D hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Judge.